Hello, my name is Andrew Bogg and I am co-chair of the Barnsley LGBT Community Forum. I've been in this position for the last 3 years, and prior to that I was secretary of the forum and I joined the forum in 2010. We decided to look at the history of the LGBT community here in Barnsley because we felt it was important that we looked at the history of where we came from and the changes that have happened in the last 50 years since the partial decriminalisation of homosexuality in men over the age of 21 in 1967. We thought that was a bit of a mouthful to say, and so we came up with the Pride Over Prejudice festivals and the events that went around that, just so that it was a bit easier to manage. I feel that the stories that the project came up with have been really eye-opening to some people because they didn't really believe that this sort of thing happened in Barnsley. Barnsley's always been considered a bit of a backwater when it comes to LGBT history and LGBT rights. And so some of the stories that came up were really interesting and quite surprising about the ramifications that it had for the wider community, not just for the couple of people that were involved in that particular story. I think one of the things that we want to lead on from the history project is that a series of things can be developed for future generations. So, for example, there can be school information that can be sent out to all the schools in the area. We've had some artwork done which can be left as a legacy for the future generations, and maybe they can look at it in the next 50 years and see how far we've come in 100 years since the actual decriminalisation of 67. I originally came to Barnsley in 2001 after I met my partner, and I moved here to be closer to him. And at that particular point I'd been qualified nurse for about 18 months, so I decided to see what opportunities were available here in Barnsley. I went to work at Barnsley Hospital, and in the first couple of weeks I said to them, well, can you tell me what sort of events and what things there are in Barnsley for LGBT community? And I was just informed, well, you've got the Clap Clinic, what more do you need? So in the years that followed, it was quite difficult because there wasn't really anything going on unless you could go to the gay venues, which were held once a week, and they were held at such a time whereas if you were working 9 to 5 it would be difficult to attend every week. So it did prove difficult at first, but then following the setup of the Camp Rock event in Barnsley and then the introduction of the LGBT forum in Barnsley, it's been able to develop onto further things. So there's been work done with partner organisations such as South Yorkshire Fire Rescue, South Yorkshire Police, Barnsley Council, Barnsley Hospital, Barnsley College. And over the years that's helped develop things like Barnsley Pride. It's developed community groups here in Barnsley for all different sectors of the LGBT community. We've been able to interact with other areas of South Yorkshire to look at what their experiences are so that we can replicate something like that over there, learn from what they've done, and they can learn from what we have done. Yeah, there was still very much a secret sort of life of the LGBT community in Barnsley back in 2001, even though we feel that it was quite a liberal time. Places like Barnsley and other areas still didn't really embrace what was going on in some of the larger towns and the cities, and I think one of the reasons for that is because it's got a history of being quite a close-knit, cohesive community, and something like that may have a negative effect on what the community is at the moment. I think the Goodlift case was quite an eye-opener for a lot of people because it just showed that in quite a close-knit community where things weren't discussed, that there were a group of men who obviously were in touch with each other, were actually caught and taken through the legal system. And even though it was not seen as something to be talked about back then, because we're talking sort of post-war, before the decriminalisation, then they had to be secretive and they had to have ways of talking to each other and getting in touch with each other. So that was interesting to see how that developed and how, after Goodlift was attacked, what happened to him and the way it happened and the ripple effects it had on with the rest of the people that he then named as taking part in these unnatural acts. I really think it does help to strengthen the cohesive relationships within Barnsley with the various communities, and I think we've got a really good positive future to look forward to here in Barnsley following all the events that we've held.